Coming up tonight on News Center Now, another privacy issue for Facebook users. If you send an audio note through Facebook's Messenger, there's a chance a third party may have listened to it.
They can be tremendously powerful.
Algae found right here in Maine is killing dogs across the country. We'll tell you what you need to know about it.
And camaraderie on the golf course. It's about so much more than that. It's a group of people who all have one thing in common, and their mission to help others like them. This is News Center Now.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lee Nelson.
And I'm Lindsay Mills. Thanks for being with us. In less than 24 hours from now, asylum seekers staying at the Portland Expo will have to leave. The city is closing the temporary shelter tomorrow afternoon and turning it back over to the Maine Red Claws. City officials say 212 asylum seekers are now in permanent or temporary housing, plus 30 families are staying at host homes in the greater Portland area. We will have much more on this story throughout the next 90 minutes here on News Center Maine. Toxic algae is killing pets all over the country. You may have seen some of the stories, dogs dying just minutes after going swimming in lakes and rivers. So do we need to be worried about the water here in Maine?
Yeah, Sam York went to find the answer. Sam, what'd you find out?
Hey guys, so yeah, the simple answer is yes. This blue-green algae, also known as cyanobacteria, is found here in Maine, but there's a catch. It's not as prevalent here as it is in warmer climates like the Carolinas or Texas, but experts say the effects are just as dangerous. You've seen the headlines. Toxic blue-green algae wreaking havoc all over the country. Dog owners in particular being warned of its toxic and deadly side effects. So what exactly is this type of algae and what makes it so dangerous? That's a question for marine botanist and University of Southern Maine professor Ike Levine.
These algae are ubiquitous. They're everywhere.
Blue-green algae is just one of dozens that Levine and his students study on a regular basis.
They show up this time of the year in the summertime when the water is warm and lots of nutrients run off from the shore.
It contains deadly toxins that, when consumed, can be fatal. He says while the algae is not as prevalent here in Maine, the consequences of coming across it are just as great, especially for your pets.
You can get contact dermatitis all the way up to death. So algae can be your best friend, but unfortunately they can also cause quite a bit of illness.
So what should you do if you think you've come across this potentially life-threatening algae? Levine says feel free to safely collect a sample and then leave it to the experts.
I don't think it's something truly to be concerned. Vigilant, yes, but I would not go in the water because of what's happening in North Carolina.
So Professor Levine is also the president of the Algae Foundation, which was created about a decade ago to get more people interested in working with algae. You can learn more about them as well as more about blue-green algae in general on the State of Maine website. We put links for you guys right there on our website and mobile app. And then coming up at 6, we're going to talk a little bit more about, the symptoms, side effects to look for if your pet does get exposed.
Okay.
Something to think
All
about.
right, because there's a lot of algae out there, so we need to know what this particular stuff really looks like so we can figure it out. All right, Sam. Yep. Again, there's added to the list of things to worry about.
I know. Sorry, guys.
So many of them now. Let's not worry about the forecast. Let's just hope it's good.
That's a good idea.
What do you think, Keith?
Do we only care about science when we think it's something that could kill us? You notice this? We're like, you want to talk about algae today? Only if it could possibly kill us.
Hey,
that's it.
In my defense, I think the science of aquaculture is something to celebrate, and we do a lot with that.
There you go, Keith.
Okay.
Boom.
Fair enough.
So I'll argue with you on that one.
It's fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you at this point. Tell you that. I know better. Been down this road. Visible satellite here. Nice and clean for most of us. We had a sunny day with just a few cumulus clouds that have popped up in the mountains. And this is something I just want to point out that will be a trend tomorrow and into the weekend. Well, there'll be topography-driven clouds and eventually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday topography-driven showers as well. So you see it even today, even though there's no showers in there. Temperatures upper 70s to around 80 degrees right along the immediate coastline, east wind straight out. You can tell. I mean, look at York at 69, 70 in Cape Elizabeth, and right along the coastline, it's still right around 70 in Bar Harbor and upper 70s inland. So we do have an ocean influence, although it's not a strong sea breeze necessarily. And another way to detect that sea breeze or the ocean influence is looking at the dew points right along the coastline. See how they're elevated into the 60s? Most of us are in the 50s and 40s. That's simply the marine air being pushed out over those sensors. So it's not an air mass change, it's just a wind direction thing. Guys, tonight looks good. Tomorrow we'll call it partly cloudy. We do have a couple of shower chances Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but this is a really nuanced forecast where some of us will get showers, some won't. So you'll be forced to at least watch me one more time.
Good deal.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Keith. Taking a look at some headlines now. Tuition at Maine's 7 community colleges will not be going up this fall. The annual cost of tuition and fees will average just over $3,600, which the Maine Community System says is the lowest in New England. The Maine Community College System has campuses in Auburn, Bangor, Fairfield, Presque Isle, Brunswick, South Portland, Calais, and Wells.
Well, so much for that big rally on Wall Street. One day after the markets bounced back on news that tariffs on China were being delayed, stocks fell sharply today after the bond market threw up another economic red flag. The yield on the 10-year Treasury briefly dropped below the 2-year Treasury's yield this morning for the first time in 12 years. That's an ominous sign that has correctly predicted past recessions. Investors responded by dumping stocks. The Dow dropped 800 points today. The Nasdaq lost 240 points.
The Trump administration is taking steps to relax regulations on how much time truck drivers can spend behind the wheel. The proposed rules would affect the breaks that truckers are required to take and their time on and off duty. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration says the agency listened to drivers in their call for safer and more flexible rules. The proposal will be open for public comment before it is finalized. Are you honest with your doctor? Nearly half of the participants in a new study from the University of Utah Health say they didn't tell their doctor if they were facing life-threatening issues. These issues included being a sexual assault victim, facing threats of domestic violence, having depression, or having suicidal thoughts. The biggest reasons for holding back? Embarrassment and fear of being judged. And who was most likely to withhold important information? Young patients and women.
A vaping industry group is suing the government to delay a review of electronic cigarettes. The Vaping Technology Association said in a lawsuit today that the Food and Drug Administration's deadline of next May could wipe out many of the smaller companies in this growing industry. The industry's legal challenge is the latest hurdle in the FDA's effort to regulate e-cigarettes. The FDA first gained authority to police e-cigarettes in 2016, but regulators have repeatedly pushed back the timeline to begin reviewing the thousands of products currently on the market. Well, the next time you're flying, you might want to think twice before you bring your laptop. We'll explain coming up.
And golfers from 9 different states are in Maine for a golf tournament, but their competition is fueled by their motivation to keep moving forward and helping others do the same. That story when we come back.
And of course, don't forget to download our News Center Maine app. It's free on the App Store and Google Play. All right, so if you tend to take a laptop with you when you fly, we have some information you need to know tonight. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, has just announced a ban on some MacBook Pro laptops on their flights. Now, Apple recently recalled 15-inch MacBook Pros sold between September of 2015 and February of 2017, and the reason is batteries overheat and they could cause a fire.
Interesting. United Airlines, meanwhile, is changing its policies after 2 pilots were charged with suspicion of being under the influence right before a flight. The airline is now telling pilots they can't drink alcohol for 12 hours before flights. The old 8-hour limit complied with FAA guidelines that prohibited pilots from flying with a blood alcohol content at or above 0.04%. United isn't the only airline that has had trouble with pilots drinking. Both American Airlines and Delta have had pilots arrested in recent months on alcohol-related charges. Coming up, we're going to meet a group of people who are finding support through playing their favorite sport. That's coming up.
Sounds good. And another great day out there. Keith will let us know how many more there are this week.
It's so sad.
You know, in life we are hit with a lot of unexpected challenges, and they shape our lives either for the good or the bad, right?
Sure. Sometimes it can take a big loss to get the greatest gain. Just ask this one group of friends.
There's a lot to learn on a golf course, like patience, skill, and perseverance. And that is what brought these guys out here in the first place. Turns out they all ended up on a different path than expected.
I lost my leg to cancer in December of 2012.
He lost a limb, yet John Lemieux felt compelled to give.
After losing my leg and getting to meet some other amputees, we realized that there's not a lot of formal support.
Let's go get him.
So through his newfound role as board president of the Amputee Association of Maine, he started a golf tournament. 20 golfers from 9 different states, all competing in Cumberland.
It's going to work. What we're trying to do is provide a space for education and support for amputees throughout the state of Maine.
But already in its 3-year run, this outing has provided so much more.
This is something that really helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. And we learn a lot about prosthetics at the same time. Because everybody's got a different prosthetist and a different leg and a different arm, and it helps people who haven't had exposure to people without limbs.
I think for newer amputees, it's helpful for them to talk to somebody with some experience. There's a lot of camaraderie that goes around here between the amputees.
Some were lifelong golfers before they lost a leg. Others picked up the sport as a way to keep moving forward. No matter who you ask in this tournament, they'll tell you the only handicap they see is the one on their scorecard.
And somebody asked me once, do I ever wish I could get my leg back? And I said, well, sure. I said, but if I had to give up everything I've learned about myself in order to get my leg back, it's not an even trade.
Meanwhile, tonight on 207, we'll meet Caleb Marola, who got to throw out the first pitch before the start of a Sea Dogs game recently. He balanced himself on a prosthetic leg 1 year after having surgery to remove it. It's been a difficult journey, but Caleb has learned an important lesson that he will share tonight on 207.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. All right, Keith's here, as you can see. And it was, wow, what a gorgeous day it was.
Nice. It was nice.
It was
Dug
really nice, especially on the golf course.
There's like,
Yeah.
there's probably 15 to 20 times a year I want to put a sunroof actually open, because you gotta think about what's the calculated risk of getting pooped on by a seagull versus the nice weather.
Right.
So only 10 or 15 days a year do I take that chance. Today was one of those though. It was like it was just right in the right zone. I also can't run the air conditioning while I have the moonroof open. I feel like wrong about that.
Are you talking even when you drive? You're afraid to open it?
Oh yeah. Wait, didn't you get hit in your car?
Yeah, but once I have the top down every day.
Yeah. Every day during the summer.
Yeah.
You do. Yeah.
Yes.
It's I don't know. That would just be like the worst, because then you have additional velocity of moving forward. So it's the velocity of the poop and then the velocity of. It's a vector. It's a vector thing. It's not good. Not good. All right. Temperatures right now in the 70s. Nice day today. That's what we were trying to say through all of that. Upper 70s inland, right along the coastline. We are seeing that ocean influence again. It's not a stiff sea breeze necessarily, because there wasn't much of a differential, but there's an east wind off the water. Overnight tonight, temperatures drop into the 60s and eventually 50s. We're kept up a little bit by maybe some fog along the immediate coastline early tomorrow morning. And I think tomorrow is a little bit cloudier than today. In fact, this small scale model tries to pop up a shower, but I just don't buy it. I think what is going to happen is we're going to have some cumulus clouds out there, temperatures in the 70s, similar profile near 80 here, closer to 70 along the immediate coastline. And then we clear out overnight on Thursday with just a little bit of fog coming in for Friday morning. And Friday now, I had a chance of showers in statewide, but I think it's fair to confine the showers on Friday now into the mountains, as it looks like we'll stay dry for the coast and into the interior as well. So that's a bit of an improvement overall, although there will be some cloud cover around. And then Saturday, it's a similar situation where we're dealing with partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies along the coast, but a lot of the showers do stay in the mountains and inland. So you're going to see kind of two different patterns here straight through the weekend, depending on your location. And it's a good moment that we have an inland and a coastal forecast, because they'll be very different, as you'll see here in a second. So there's that little trough on Friday, mountain showers. Again, a chance of a shower on Saturday. Best chance will be into the higher terrain. And then Sunday afternoon, it'll be western Maine and southwestern Maine in the afternoon that have a chance of a shower. And then we get hot for Monday and Tuesday. But hot doesn't come as a totally nice package. There will be some showers still involved. They're cooking right back up here. Although cooking with gas, I feel bad about. There's some great new induction electric ranges that cook really, really fast. Just something to think about. You need special pots though. 87 on Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday into the mid 80s. And the dew points will go with it, so it'll get sticky Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But I think overall next week will be more summery in general, with a lot of more mid 80s around, some thunderstorms. And the weekend, Todd and I we should record this as a podcast. We had like a nice meteorologist friendly argument about how to play Saturday, because I think it's a 30 to 40% shower risk inland. So do you put that in the forecast or do you not? And I did for inland locations. Yeah, he was just basically saying, I think it sends a wrong message. Most of us will have a nice weekend, but it's all about semantics of how do you want to be surprised? Do you want to think there's a shower and be surprised that it's not going to rain, or would you rather think there's going to be a shower and be surprised?
That's just
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I think I go with I'd rather know that there's a chance, so I won't be surprised if it rains.
That would be my stance, but it will be a podcast coming out later this week. I think it'll be very entertaining.
I may subscribe.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It's just we only have one episode. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Good luck with that. All right. Facebook under fire once again.
Here we go again, this time for its handling of audio recordings shared between users. NBC's Morgan Radford has these details.
The future is private. This is the next chapter for our services.
A company that preached privacy after failing to protect its users' data is on defense yet again. Facebook confirming overnight that the tech giant has been reviewing some user audio clips shared through its popular Messenger app. Bloomberg reporting that outside contractors were rattled by the job of transcribing the audio, not knowing where the sometimes vulgar clips were recorded, how they were obtained, or why Facebook needed the transcriptions, according to people with knowledge of the work. The contractors also reportedly felt it was unethical because users didn't know a third party might review it. Facebook telling NBC News it paused human review of audio more than a week ago, adding the only users affected chose a transcription option in their Messenger app. Facebook says it masked the audio so that no user identities were revealed, and the practice was only to make sure their artificial intelligence was working correctly. Facebook's founder, Mark Zuckerberg, has been pressed on the company's handling of user audio in the past.
Does Facebook use audio obtained from mobile devices to enrich personal information about its users?
No.
Good.
Well, Senator, let me be clear on this. I mean, so you're talking about this conspiracy theory that gets passed around that we listen to what's going on your microphone and use that for ads.
Right.
We don't do that.
It's the latest black eye for Facebook, just fined a record $5 billion as a result of a federal investigation into its privacy practices. But it's not the only tech giant to have people reviewing user conversations. Apple, Google, and Amazon, which all have virtual assistants listening to help users, also facing criticism in recent months. Those companies later stopping the practice completely or allowing customers to opt out.
Now, on its support page for the voice-to-text feature, Facebook never mentions human review. Instead, it says it uses machine learning, and the more people use the feature, the more it can help. While the kids are away, the moms will play. A group of moms in Florida celebrated sending their kids back to school with comfy robes, wine, and donuts in this video that's gone viral. They created the picture in response to seeing others post sad back to school photos. Aw. You gotta have fun with it.
I was sad when the kids went back to school.
Were you?
Not happy.
Wait, yeah, what's that like? It's just, parting ways after
I liked having them around. I never was happy when they went away to college or when they went away to live on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I bummed out, but that was not like a celebratory thing as far as I was concerned.
Luckily,
I'm happy for them, sad for me.
Luckily for you guys, too, you were able to be on the sidelines for football games and that sort of thing, too.
Yeah.
So I shall soon find out all of these things.
We must move on.
It's hard though.
It is hard, yeah.
We were both in the dumps a little bit
Yeah.
there for a while, yeah. And it doesn't help because he doesn't eat donuts with me, so.
That'd be a solo picture if you took one.
We got a lot more news coming up on News Center at 5:30. Rabies. There have been 7 cases in Bath just this year, and now 2 dogs have been exposed in this latest one. This is in addition to that little girl who you see here who was chased down and bitten by a fox and whose dog wound up killing it. So this is a problem statewide, not just in Bath, and the state is working hard to stop the spread of rabies northward. We're going to take a look at their efforts. Also ahead, this is it. The last night the asylum seekers will be able to stay at the Portland Expo. We're going to look at how many of them still do not have temporary housing or a place to stay as of tomorrow. That's all ahead at 5:30.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Lee. We'll see you guys at 5:30.
All right.
Okay. Keith's here with Brain Drops when we come back. I like this one best. I like this one the best.
This is me after the snacks we have at work here. All right. So this is a viewer picture. Let's get to it. What was the name again, Isaac? I'm sorry. Christopher Rose, not our former reporter, but
okay.
They sent this picture and they said, what are those little caps on top of the clouds? You see them?
Yeah.
Those little like disc-looking things? I think
do.
we have another picture of it. That one's really clear. Okay, so they look like lenticular clouds, which are derived from mountains, but they're not. They're actually called Pileus or Peleus. I've actually never heard anybody pronounce this, although I've seen this cloud many times. So,
all right, so let us know
if you know how to pronounce it, that's great. What happens is you get an updraft, upward moving air. That's how clouds form, right? They condense in layers. But when you get a really strong updraft, it shoots basically and overruns the cumulus cloud and gets up over the cloud and condenses into ice crystals in a cirrus cloud. And so what you're seeing in what looks like that cap is basically the upward movement personified by ice crystals. So it's such a fast and strong updraft, it's overshooting the ability of this cloud to condense in time. And typically what it tells you is that atmosphere is very primed, and a lot of times it can be a signal of severe weather to come, because the atmosphere is that volatile that we've exploded a cloud on top of our previous cloud.
So did we have severe weather after this photo was taken?
That's a great question. They did not tell me, I don't believe, what day exactly it was. So that would be...
We did have some storms pop up this week that were pretty strong.
We do. It's not an always thing, but certainly that usually means that your atmosphere is really jacked up.
See the cap? Take cover.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
What is it, pop a cap on your cloud? Something like that. I think that's what it is.
News Center Maine at 5:30 starts right now.